Hi, welcome to my November wrap-up. I read 5 books this month, so let's just start with the first one, which is Remarkably Bright Creatures. I think this cover is really adorable, and the writer is Shelby Van Pelt. Now, I want to correct a mistake that I made, because in my TBR video, I mentioned that I thought that this octopus was able to talk. Because I was like, yeah, he's gonna be talking to one or more of the characters in the book. I was wrong. This is not a fantasy book where the octopus learns how to talk or something. No, I don't know how I came up with that, but that was wrong. The octopus is able to kind of communicate, but more like with eye contact or with like wiggling his tentacle. I'm sorry if I made you believe that this octopus was able to talk. Yeah, that was a lie. I'm sorry. But this was a really adorable book. It's about this octopus who is named Marcellus, and he is captured in an aquarium. The female main character in this book is Tova, and she is a 70-year-old cleaning lady because she really connects with these animals and she just really kind of loves these animals, and it's just so cute, and especially the octopus. And there are really short chapters in his point of view, and they're really funny. I just think Marcellus is a really funny character. This book also has some found family aspects that are really adorable. Tova has a husband and he recently passed away, and she also has a son who died when he was really young. So in the book, Tova is also discovering a little bit more about the time when her son passed away. And what I also really liked about this book is that there's a mixture of older people and younger people. And I just feel like that makes it more realistic, because sometimes a book is only about 20-year-olds or something, and then maybe a mom gets mentioned once or twice. But in this book, it's really a bit more diverse. And I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I just think that somewhere in the middle, I wanted it to pick up a little bit more, but it was cute, it was adorable and funny, and I would definitely recommend it. It's a really good book. Then the second book that I read is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, this is obviously just a classic, and it's a really, really short book. But what I really appreciated about this is that in the at the back of the book you have activities, as it says, and then it's basically these questions that you can answer before reading the book and after, and also during, actually. So it looks like this, then before reading, and you can circle yes or no, or sometimes it's like a fill-in assignment. And some of the questions are more like a summary where you just fill in the word, like the police could not Mr. Hyde because he had so it's the police could not find Mr. Hyde because he had disappeared, or at least that's what I wrote down. But it's more of a fill-in assignment, and I don't know how much that really adds, but I did like the questions before and in the end. I don't know what to say about it, because I personally went into this book not exactly knowing the story. I mean, it is a classic, so you have maybe heard about it sometimes, but I didn't know exactly what it was about. And I feel like that's more interesting, to go into it not knowing exactly. I don't know if I would necessarily recommend it. I think this was just good for what it was. I gave it 4 stars, but now that I'm thinking back on it, I feel like maybe a 3-star or 3.5 would have been fine too. If you want to get to your reading goals, then this is a good book to pick up, because it's only 70 pages, so that's easy. The next book that I read actually was an audiobook, and it's called The Death of the Author. The female main character is called Selu, and when she was really young, she had an accident where she lost her ability to move her legs. So she's in a wheelchair, and she was really going through a rough period in her life. She was just really struggling to find purpose in life, and then she started writing a book, and she got pretty famous from that book, or at least, it was published, and she really became an author. And what I noticed is that her family isn't really supportive of that part of her life, but also the journey she goes on after. Her her family is just not supportive at all. I feel like her sister at some points did was there for her, but most of the time her family was just very unsupportive, and that was just really sad to see. I do think that the mother had a lot of depth to her. It was really well thought out character. So I appreciated that in this book, that it's not just the main character that has a personality and then the others are just extra. They really did feel like real characters. So that was well written. And another thing about this book, it's not just about her story of being an author and with her family and her evolving in her life, but it's also a story within a story, because there's also chapters about her book. And that was really confusing to me, because maybe it's because I listened to the audiobook and that's why I didn't really understand when it was about her life or when it was a segment of her book. Maybe it was clearer in the actual book that you could see that it was written in a different font or something, I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of why my rating was a little bit lower. I gave it a 3.5 stars. It's just because at some points I was confused, like, is it about her life now or is it her writing in the book? I didn't really get it. I still thought it was a really good book. It's kind of a mixture of sci-fi and literary fiction. The book she wrote is about robots, so that's kind of the sci-fi element. And at some point she meets a man who is experimenting, and that's also another sci-fi element with robots. This book is mostly written in Zulu's narrative, but sometimes her brother or her sister also has a chapter, and sometimes it's the book that's the book in the book, you know? Either way, I gave it 3.5 stars. I did think it was really well written. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it. It is a bit long if it's something you're not into, but if you like sci-fi and you like a little bit of family struggles, then this is definitely a good book to get into. Then another book that I read this month is Bunny. Now, this was such a weird book, and I actually did a mid-read check-in because I was halfway through and I just had to share my thoughts. Hi, okay, sorry for the lighting because I'm about halfway right now, and this is confusing. It's really weird, and I didn't necessarily think that I was gonna like it that much, but it's really weird. There are these four girls, and they're kind of in a cult, I would say. And then there is this one girl, Samantha, and she's also in a class with them. But she has this best friend called Ava. And, you know, Ava doesn't go to the same school. By the way, they're all like 20 something year olds, maybe 27 or something. It's insane. These girls are always together and they're like just really weird. They're always super close together and they call each other Bunny, and then they say, "Oh, I love you, Bunny," or "You're so beautiful, Bunny." And it's kind of annoying and kind of cringy. And I was reading it and I was just confused because there's stuff happening that I'm not going to say too much about because it's really weird, but it doesn't say anything about it on the back, so I don't want to spoil it. I was kind of feeling like maybe it would even be a DNF because it was just not really going anywhere in what that was my experience at least. But then I found out that this book has like 3 parts to it because I turned the page and there was nothing on it, and I turned the page again and it was like part 2. And so I continued reading, and I don't know it. I don't know why, but now I just need to know how it continues because there's just this weird connection between them all. I will say though, I personally didn't look at any trigger warnings or anything like that. Maybe I should have. No, I don't. I'm fine with it. But if you don't like that there's people talking about drugs or about hallucinations or, you know, something in that realm, then maybe skip this book because it's kind of crazy and that's part of what it's about as well. I've never read anything like it, that's for sure. I did think because it was horror, I feel like while reading it, I'm not necessarily that scared. I mean, stuff happens that could be considered as scary, I guess. But I feel like if this was a movie, I would stop watching. I would hate it. But because it's a book and I feel like it's unrealistic, that's why I'm not that scared. Because if it was more realistic, then I probably wouldn't want to continue reading. But I do understand if people wouldn't like it because it's kind of gory, kind of gross. Okay, so like I just mentioned, this book is just the first part is really, really weird. It's basically about Samantha becoming a cult member with these weird college girls that are, I would say, into witchcraft, but it's not mentioned that they're witches or anything, but that's the vibe I'm getting. Oh, is that movie where there were like what's the name? It's giving those vibes. And I wasn't really into it, but then the second part of this book started, and in that part Ava was mentioned way more. And I really like Ava. She's my favorite character in the whole book. That's when the book kind of hooked me and I kept going. The second part was very interesting, but it had more of an impact after reading the first part and kind of being annoyed with that first part. That's what made the second and the third part more impactful or like more meaningful. I would not recommend this book necessarily, although I gave it 3.5 stars. And I thought I was going to give it 3 stars or lower, or maybe even DNF in the beginning, but it turned out better than I expected. There were still a few things that I'm kind of confused about, like why these girls had certain powers. That was never really explained. But I felt like the ending was an actual ending, you know? It was just, that's the end. So I don't really understand why there's a second book, because I feel like it's a duology. But there weren't necessarily that many questions left or anything unsolved, or it was just what it was. And I don't feel like the second book is going to be necessary. I wouldn't recommend, but I did think it was really interesting. And if you already plan to read it, if you already bought the book, then if you don't like the first part, keep going, because the second and third part are better. The last book of November is actually a book I haven't yet finished. It's A Road Trip with a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I am already loving this book so much. It's the third book in the series, and right now it's an interconnected series, so it doesn't matter that much if you haven't yet read the first 2 books. In this book there is this character called Peter, and he went to California because okay, let me explain this the right way. He's a vampire and he has amnesia, so he doesn't remember who he is or where he used to live, what his job is, who his friends are. He doesn't know anything. And then he ran into Reggie, which is the vampire male main character of the last book. And Reggie sent him to California to go visit Zelda. And Zelda is a witch, but there's something happened in her past, and that's why she is trying to contain her magic and not show anyone that she has these powers. And she tries to not use her powers anymore because something happened in the past that she's kind of ashamed of, and she doesn't want to relive that experience. So she started a yoga studio and she's now a yoga teacher. And then he just shows up. This is also so silly because he shows up with a letter, and the letter is written by Reggie, and it's like, I'm warning you that I'm sending this guy your way. But that's like a warning letter given by the person that he's warning you about. It's just stupid. And I just think this is such a funny book. I mean, I'm 40% in right now, so I don't know exactly where it's gonna go, but he's kind of trying to rediscover who he is and just his past, what his job is, and where he grew up, just, who he is. And she is trying to manage her magic powers and kind of realizing she can't run away from her magic powers. So, trying to find a way to deal with that. And then they both go on this road trip together. And it's just really cute to see them together. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. It's just so funny, and they obviously like each other, but they don't want to show it to each other. And yeah, it is a bit, it's not basic, but it's a bit like the tropes that happen more often, Every romance has these kind of tropes, and I get that for some people that gets boring and it's like, oh, it's all the same tropes, but I really enjoy it. And obviously, I don't yet know the rating I'm gonna give it because I didn't yet finish. I think I'm gonna finish it on Sunday, which will still be November, so I might add that in here. But I'm feeling like it's gonna be a 5 stars. I think it's so cute and it's so funny, and I just love them. I feel like this is gonna be a really cute couple because obviously they're gonna get together. And as you can see them here, this is them as they're like pretending to be normal. And then here she's a witch and he's a vampire, and I don't know. It's just, I love it so much. I would definitely recommend this book, this whole series actually. The only way it's not going to be a 5 star is if the ending is really like hasty, or if it's just not well thought out, or I don't know, if they don't end up together. That would not be good. So these are the books that I read in November, and I really enjoyed most of them. Even if it's like a 3 star, that's still a good book and was still really interesting to read. And I would really like to know if you have also had a 5 star read this month. So please share that down below, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!